Good morning. I am streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and hopefully Rumble. Um, I'm desperately trying to figure out the trick to streaming to Rumble. I think I might have figured it out, but I still need to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing so that I can see if there's an easier way because it's stupid. But I'm pretty sure that I'm live on Rumble right now. And my name is Catherine Vitale. I am a former and future candidate for Boston City Council. I've been an activist for the past 3 or so years, and I am a homeschooling mom of 2 and a Boston resident, a lifelong Boston resident. I was born and raised in Dorchester, and which is a neighborhood of Boston for anybody who doesn't know. So, I spontaneously go live on all of these platforms sometimes to have conversations about things going on in Boston, in Massachusetts, in general. And then when I am out at public meetings or doing a demonstration or, something outside of my home, I usually am streaming live on Facebook only. So when I'm streaming live on these platforms, I'm usually just sitting inside somewhere. Anyway, so I don't have like a regular schedule for going live. I just do it spontaneously whenever I feel like there's something that needs to be talked about or somebody that I want to have a conversation with for other people to see or whatever. So today, I'm going to talk about a few events that have happened in Boston City Hall over the past couple of weeks. Because I think it's really important that we don't let this conversation die and that we keep having it consistently and in different ways and with different people, those of us living in and around Boston. So I know that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago or so, there were some, I don't know if I would call them YouTubers. I don't know if that's what they refer to themselves as or I think one may be a First Amendment auditor. The person with the YouTube account, Accountability for All, and then somebody else named James Freeman went into Boston City Hall a couple weeks ago. I don't know exactly what they were there for, but they posted a video of their experience at City Hall. And actually, I should have had that part ready to show. Maybe I can actually pull it up if you give me 1 second to figure it out. Because I do think that it's really important that we look at these things and we talk about these things and we talk about, why these things are happening and, why gross, ridiculous, disgusting civil rights violations are happening to people every day in Boston City Hall, in the courts, in any government building, really. Our government and the people who work for the government, which the city of Boston alone has about 23,000 employees, which is pretty excessive if you ask me. But, I want to know why. I mean, I think that people should talk about why these civil rights violations are happening and, what we can do to try to get better control over our government and how our public employees act. Maybe if somebody's watching could send me the link to the clip of the video on Twitter or something. I'm going to try to find it on YouTube, but I don't think that I know exactly where it's at. But I'm going to look really quickly. So basically what happened was they went into Boston City Hall. I don't think that they live in Boston, but I mean, Boston's the capital of the state. So I feel like anybody could have any reason they want to go into Boston City Hall. It's a public building. I don't really care if you're from Boston or not. I mean, the people who work there aren't even from Boston. So, oh, okay. I found the video actually. Let me see if I can find the exact reference. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to go through the video. Okay. Oh, I found it. I found it pretty easily. Nope. Okay. Let me share my screen. If anybody's watching, if you could please like the video, share the video, comment to let me know which platform you're watching on. My views are weird. I used to get most of my views on Facebook. It seems that when I live streamed a city council hearing last week, I got a lot of views from Twitter, which was weird to me. I mean, either way, all my accounts are pretty shadow banned anyway, so it's hard to get views or to know from where people are watching. So it's helpful if you comment. It's helpful for the visibility of the video if you interact with the video in any way. You know, I'm just trying to spread awareness of the things that are happening in the city and around the city. So it would be helpful if you would help share the videos. Okay, I'm gonna come over to this screen. Hold on, let me see what you're seeing. This YouTube screen. Okay. I don't know what looks better. No. No, I don't like that. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this one. Okay. So we have this guy in Boston City Hall. And shoot, I don't know if you can hear the sound to the YouTube video. I'll play it, and then if somebody wants to comment whether or not you can hear the sound, please do that.
I'm okay, thank you. What's that? Who are you here with? Just me.
Okay. Do you have permission to be here?
From, what do you mean?
Just as I had this one on the line, Josh from Accountability for All walked around the corner. In case you don't know who he is famous in the entire Massachusetts area. He has sued multiple cops and had multiple public employees fired for their bad behavior while on the job. Bulletins and memos have been sent out about him to almost every single public employee in the state of Massachusetts, so they know who he is. And
sorry, I didn't even intend on playing that much of the video. I just wanted to highlight the part where she said, "Do you have permission to be here?" So I'm just going to go back really quickly.
I'm okay, thank you. What's that?
Who are you here with?
Just me.
Okay. Do you have permission to be here?
From, what do you mean?
Just as I had this one on the line, Josh from Accountability for All.
So she walks up and starts questioning him for no reason, asking him who he's with and if he has permission to be there. And then she just walks away. So he does like let the whole thing play out after he talks about the other guy that's there with him. But, you know, she literally just walks away and like walks into an office and disappears. And this is a huge problem. And, you know, I see people in the comments or people having conversations about it on Twitter that, you know, and I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with people about this type of thing. And there's a lot of people, like an annoying amount of people who think that something like this is no big deal. But it's the fact that we ignore things like this that get us deeper and deeper into major corruption that happens. When little things like this are ignored and we allow things like this to take place, then things like Boston police murder cover-ups happen, right? How could we possibly get to the level of the Karen Read case, major cover-up, without ignoring corruption for as long and as much as we do? So it's little things like this that if we actually put people on blast for things like this, if we actually shine light on it and don't let the conversation die about it, then that's the beginning to addressing the corruption that's happening in City Hall or, you know, in the government period, is paying attention to little things like this, things that just don't make sense, things that are unlawful, things that are unconstitutional, which, I mean, many things that happen in the government are unconstitutional. We basically have allowed the erasure of the Constitution. We're supposed to be a nation that is ruled by the Constitution and you know, the Bill of Rights, and we have allowed like centuries of laws to take place that infringe on our basic rights, and the only way to even attempt to begin to undo that is to call it out every time we see it. We have to address corruption everywhere that we see it. No matter how small or insignificant it looks to you, it's all corruption. It's all important, and we should be calling it out as much as possible, shining light on it, educating people on it. And that's why I have the title of this video. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. That applies to absolutely every situation in life. And, you know, then you also have those people that just don't want to deal with it, or just don't have time to deal with it, or, you know, they don't like to get political. Like, I hate to break it to you, but everything in life is political. You are a part of politics, whether you want to be or not. And everybody's political, whether it's by choice or by force. You know, I have children. I care about what the world is going to look like for them when they're adults. I care about them having freedom or something extremely close to it, because I don't know that we've ever actually been free. I don't know. I know that we're not free now. And I know that there's tons of people that would laugh at me saying that for many reasons. Some because people think that we've never been free. Some because people think that we are free and I'm overreacting. But I want my kids to grow up in a decent world where they don't have to worry about gross human rights violations that we've seen play out like very disgustingly in our faces over the past few years. You know, or even decades for some types of people. Like, you know, you don't, the average person doesn't actually pay attention or get involved, I think, until something like directly like hits them in the face and affects them, and then they feel inclined to do something about it. Maybe because there's also the element of people, you know, not investing their time or money or energy into something if they don't feel like they are getting some type of immediate payment or reward for it, you know, because I mean, I've been an activist for 3 years. I don't show up to protest at a government building or meeting and think that I'm going to change the minds of the political people that I'm addressing. You know, that's not why I do it. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of most of what I do, or most of what an activist does, is to raise public awareness. And we've basically been conditioned into this place where we want like immediate recognition or immediate like reward for something, for everything. And it's like, what's in it for me? Like if somebody's not getting something, and I can't think of the term, immediate something, but if somebody's not getting something out of doing something, then they don't want to do it. They're not motivated to do it. They need to be paid, or they need to have some type of immediate result. So a lot of people don't see the importance behind immediate gratification. Yes, thank you. Instant gratification. Yes. Yeah. And people need that. People, like, we had back when we were protesting in front of Michelle Wu's house, and the Boston City Council was having a working session to figure out the best way to pass a city ordinance that would be directly targeted toward our small group of protesters to essentially ban us from protesting the mayor. One of the city councilors, Tanya Fernandez Anderson, said, who's paying these people? Talking about us, the protesters of Michelle Wu, because we had gone to her house for a number of weeks in a row, multiple times a week. And she said, who's paying these people? Day after day after day after day. Who's paying these people? And if not, is there some level of instability, mental instability or something like that? And it's just like, that's how we think. That's how we've been conditioned to think in today's society, is that if somebody's putting time and effort into something, then they're either being paid to do it, or they are crazy. There's something wrong with them. Like, there's no in between, right? People don't just act on something because they feel like it's the right thing to do. They act on something because they must be getting something out of it, or they've lost their minds. Those are the only two options. So, yeah. So it's very, very important to get back to my point. I know that I trail off a lot. It's very important to call out every single act of corruption when we see it, and human rights violation. So when this woman is walking up to this guy in City Hall, so she's a public employee. I don't know who she is. I'm sure that her name has probably been posted somewhere at this point. They probably figured out who she is, but I don't know who she is. I don't know what department at City Hall she works for. But I know that she works for City Hall, and for whatever reason, somebody put her up to it, or she thought that she has some type of authority to do that. She came out questioning this man about who he's there with and if he has permission to be there. So first of all, I don't need fucking permission to walk into a government building. Not even if I'm not a resident. It's a government building. If I'm not a resident of that particular municipality, especially the capital of the state. There's many reasons why somebody who doesn't live in Boston would need to be in Boston City Hall. So she has no fucking reason to ask this guy why he's there, who he's with, none of that. He was just sitting there, like not doing anything, like he had a camera out. This is another thing. People think that if you're standing in public with your phone camera out, or with a camera stick or whatever, that they have the right to go up to you and tell you to stop filming, or if they say something to you sorry, and step into your camera frame, that they have any like ground to stand on by saying, I didn't consent to you videoing me. Like, you're in public. If you don't want to be on my video, don't step into my camera frame. You have no expectation of privacy when you're in public. And I have the right to film anything in public that I want to. So, and that goes for everybody, right? So I don't sign a consent form when I walk into City Hall. Sorry, I don't sign a consent form when I'm walking down the street, literally anywhere at this point. And the government has surveillance cameras outside of all of their buildings and they're recording me. I didn't tell the government to do that. I didn't tell the government that I was okay with that. So I don't know where the government gets off thinking that they have any authority to tell us that we can't have a camera in a government building, and including in courthouses and in courtrooms. That's a huge problem too. But that's another conversation for another day, I guess. So basically, oh, she works for the Office of Neighborhood Services. Do we know her name? That would help too. So whatever, she tells this guy he can't be there. So that was like the first of these couple of incidents that I'm going to talk about, was when this woman thought that she had some authority to ask him what he's doing there or if he has permission to be there. I don't need your fucking permission. And then he ends up going into probably the Office of Neighborhood Services, because there were people there that had there was one girl holding up a sign that said Hyde Park. So those might be the staff that do the neighborhood services, whatever that means. Okay, yeah, so she walked into the Office of Neighborhood Services. And then at some point or another, like the City Hall police, which is Boston police, come up to like tell this guy that he needs to leave some office. I don't know what office he was in, a law office or a public records office or something, talking to some woman named Alyssa. And the police officer tells him that he says to the people working there, like, would you say that he's disrupting business right now? It's like the police officer is coaching the license office he was in. So the police officer is like coaching the City Hall employees on how to frame their story on why they've called the police to this situation. Like, what is going on here? He says, would you say that he is disrupting business right now? Right. And that's what the government does. The government literally has training sessions and trains government employees on how to react to certain situations with the public. And you might think that that's no big deal. That's what an employer does. An employer trains their employees on how to handle situations, right? But no, when you're working in a public office and a person comes in to ask questions, like that's what happens. That's normal. There's no reason for an employee to be afraid. There's no reason for an employee to think that they need to call the police because a member of the public is talking to them. But the government is training their employees to be victims, to act like victims, and to be scared of the public. This is all part of this agenda to exclude the public from government buildings, to exclude us from public meetings and hearings. We see this with the virtual meetings and hearings where, that was supposed to be an emergency accommodation for the pandemic restrictions where people couldn't be in person, but they're still doing it because it wasn't an emergency accommodation. It was the practice run and the opening of the door to a virtual like reality for us. This is what they want. This is what they are going to convert us to, is virtual everything, right? Because if we're virtual, we can get kicked out by the click of a mouse, right? That we can get muted. They can very, very easily and at no cost to them and no liability to them, they can boot us and mute us and keep us out of their meetings and hearings with the click of a button. That's what virtual meetings and hearings are about. And not to mention the fact that they say that it's an accommodation and that it happens, in place of in-person meetings or whatever. That's how it started. But since the beginning, for the most part, and I've attended quite a few virtual meetings in all types of places throughout the state of Massachusetts. The majority, I would say about 95 to 98% of the virtual meetings and hearings that I have attended, they have the chat function shut off or disabled. Hold on one second. Sorry. So, they shut off or disable the chat function. So please tell me in the comments, if you will, how this is a reasonable accommodation. Because a reasonable accommodation is supposed to be as close as possible to the real thing, right? If they're shutting off the chat function, is this not a violation of open meeting law, of public meeting laws, or however we structure public meetings the way that they're supposed to happen? Because if I were in person and it's the real thing and I'm at a public hearing or a public meeting or anything public to do with the government, I have the ability to look around the room and see how many people showed up, how many members of the public are there versus how many government employees are there. How many people agree with the stance that I'm taking on whatever issue I'm here to advocate for. I'm able to talk to the other members of the public that are in the room. I'm able to speak out loud whenever I please, even if that means disrupting the meeting and getting kicked out. I'm able to do that and say what I want to say and be heard by my neighbors and other members of the public before they escort me out of the room, right? You can't do that in a virtual meeting. So this is not a reasonable accommodation. If they have the chat function disabled, this is a huge problem because we can't communicate with the other people in our communities. We don't know if there's 2 other members of the public here or 200 members of the public here. We don't know if whatever resolution they're passing or whatever they're voting on is something that there's 500 people in the room that are saying, no, don't pass this. We have no idea what's happening. And we can't communicate with the other members of the public because we can't use the chat function. Or then I've noticed when they do use the chat function, and this is across the board. This is in Boston. This is in all other municipalities I've been in a lot. If they do use the chat function, especially the Boston Human Rights Commission, we dealt with this just a couple weeks ago with them. They had the chat function available and open for us to use. But then when they didn't approve of what we were saying in the chat, they shut it down. major First Amendment violations here on top of other types of violations. And the majority of people don't even know that these things are happening. So I'm trying to think of like where I was going by talking about the virtual meetings in the first place. The agenda is right along with Agenda 21, which I will be talking about more and more often on these videos because people need to know. The agenda for this part is that they want to keep the public out of public buildings. They want to exclude the public from what they do. They being the government, and anybody who works for them. So, and these decisions are not made by the city councilors and the mayor and the mayoral hires or the city council hires, not by the actual employees. These decisions are not made by them. These decisions are made by somebody way higher up, pulling all the strings, sending the, commands down the chain of people. I don't know who it is. I don't know exactly how the structure works, but it's not Michelle Wu and the city councilors making these decisions. These decisions are coming from above them, right? And that goes for any municipality, any local government. It's the local government are not the ones making the decisions right now. It's somebody pulling their strings. Hold on one second. So, yeah, it's not them making their decisions. Anyway, they want to exclude the public from public business. So, sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah. So anyway, where was I going? Okay, so that was the first incident, and I need to leave my house in like 15 minutes. So I need to hurry up and get to the next two incidents. Anyway, the second incident was so the police were called on those two like YouTubers that day. No arrests were made, nothing like that escalated or anything. That was just that, and I'm glad that those guys were there. I don't know them personally, but I'm glad that somebody is pointing out the things that are wrong with City Hall. So last Friday, this guy, Mike Williams, goes to City Hall to participate in a public hearing. I did a video, I want to say Saturday morning. I did a live stream talking about it, so you can go back and watch that live stream if you want to hear about the details about that. And I'm sure it'll come up in conversation again. But anyway, long story short, he goes there to participate in a hearing, and finds out when he gets there that the hearing is canceled. He's asking questions to the people that work at City Hall. Somebody sends the police on him because God forbid anybody go into City Hall to try to ask questions. Everybody's in a panic, and they've been trained and conditioned to call the police, and play the victim if somebody tries to come into City Hall and ask questions. Okay. So, they started off with arresting you if you were trying to protest inside City Hall. They've arrested me and Sean Nelson and probably other people for trying to protest inside City Hall. And now they're arresting people just for coming in to ask questions, or they're calling the police on people that just come in to ask questions. So this guy, Mike Williams, he's asking questions about why the hearing was canceled, because it was abruptly canceled late in the afternoon the day before. And instead of getting answers to his questions, he gets the police. we, the public, have heard media reports on this. I have basically given my own idea of the scenario because I was on the phone with him when the police approached him. And then I also had talked to him after he was arrested. So after he got arrested, he told me that the police tried to kill him and that they lied and said that he was shouting racial slurs at some Chinese people in City Hall. And the guy's wife is Chinese, so I don't buy that story. Okay. I also, made it a point to say in my video on Saturday about this that, I'm not down with the whole like blindly backing the blue thing that people on the right, like Republicans and stuff, do, because like, okay, do I have respect for somebody that does a hard job and sometimes puts their life in jeopardy to help other people? Yes, absolutely, of course. And I wouldn't diminish anything about somebody choosing to do a very tough and scary job like that. However, this is a very corrupt place. And I will speak for Boston because that's where I'm from and that's where I've lived most of my life. And that's where I've had situations with police and have seen the corruption with my own two eyes. And I mean, there's movies, there's documentaries, there's all types of times where, I mean, we're in one right now with the Karen Reed situation and the Turtle Boy situation where we're seeing it play out in real time right in front of our faces, how corrupt this state and this city are, and to what lengths they will go through to cover up whatever it is they're trying to cover up. People do serious jail time for crimes that they didn't commit because the police have to cover something up, so somebody has to go down for it. So, there's just so much wrong and so much corruption. So I've seen a lot of police reports in my life, to do with peaceful protesting, to do with activism, and to do with like, other things that I've seen happen in my life. And I've never seen a police report that was 100% accurate or even relatively close to 100% accurate on the actual events that took place. And I've never seen a judge willing to hear in the initial conversations of anybody's like criminal case ever that the police report's not true. The police lied. Like a judge will never accept that you saying that prior to arraignment or at an arraignment. Like that's never an option on the table, is for you to allege that the whole police report's a lie. But police lie. I assume most of the time just to cover their own asses or to cover the asses of their brothers and sisters, So, and yeah, thank you, Michelle. I've been arrested 3 times falsely, and they've lied on every single one of my police reports. So police reports are not accurate ever. They usually contain lies. Not only are they just not accurate, but they usually contain lies or embellishments to make their position stronger. Their side of the story stronger. So I don't doubt for a second that he's saying that they lied on their police report. I'm sure that they did. It sounds very believable to me that they're lying about him shouting racial slurs to Chinese people because he's married to a Chinese woman and has a child with her, as far as I know. And they've been together for a long time. And I know that he has been a victim of police brutality in the past, and he did do some jail time for defending some Muslim women in a situation. So I don't think that this guy's racist. And I know that he has been treated badly and is a victim and probably is dealing with a lot of trauma from doing like a decent amount of time in prison for something that he didn't necessarily need to be in prison for. Right. Sean says can't blindly support anyone. But yeah, so Mike Williams ends up getting arrested. And then, so we see the news. First of all, they were so like running to get the news story out about this for some reason, that the first news story that came out said that 2 officers were shot at City Hall. And then like they took it back and changed the story. Nobody was shot. And then when the real news stories, or real, the more accurate news stories came out, or like the final drafts of the news stories, I'll say the final drafts came out. The story was 2 officers injured, 1 man arrested at City Hall. And the picture was Michelle Wu looking worried outside of an ambulance outside of City Hall. It's like, it's a movie. Like, these people are actors. It's a clown show. And it's almost as if like they couldn't have planned this whole situation any better. So, this guy, they say, bit the hand of a police officer right here, because of course they included a bloody picture of the person's hand, to put fear into people and to get a public reaction that, people want to say that this guy's crazy, right? Because who goes around biting people, right? So the bite mark is like right here. So my first thought of the location of the bite mark is, right, why was the officer's hand right here close to this man's mouth? This man called me and said, Catherine, they tried to kill me. So if they had their hand over his mouth and nose, trying to restrict his breathing, I want to know what you would do in that situation. If your hands are behind your back and you have at least 2 officers on you, arresting you, even when he was on the phone with me from jail, from the police station, didn't know what his charges were. He didn't know why he was being arrested. And this is not the first time we've watched a peaceful protester. He wasn't even protesting, but we've seen peaceful protesters get arrested and get brutalized by police and not even being aware that they're getting arrested, right? Because they always want to add the charge of resisting arrest to you. But is it resisting arrest if somebody's fucking beating you up and you don't know what's going on? They didn't tell you that you're getting arrested. All you know is that 2 police officers are beating the shit out of you. So how do you know that they're arresting you if they don't tell you that they're arresting you? And you have the right to know while they're arresting you what they're arresting you for. None of that happened. He didn't know that he was under arrest. He didn't know what he was being arrested for. Even after he was arrested and brought to the police station, he didn't know what his charges were. And, there's tons of people across the political spectrum that want to weigh in on this conversation and say that, this guy is the problem, that this guy did something wrong. Like, you haven't heard this guy's side of the story. You've only heard we know for a fact that police are liars. We know for a fact that the police, especially in Boston, are corrupt. So why would anybody that has any sense of what goes on in the city of Boston for a second even believe what's being told to them? Why would you not want to hear from this guy's mouth the story before you go making opinions on the fact that on what happened, on whether or not you think this guy's crazy or whatever the case may be. You know, there's people saying, you know, he belongs in a mental institution or he needs a psych evaluation or whatever. Why? What would you do if you had two police officers physically attacking you and your hands are cuffed behind your back and you have a police officer's hand over your mouth and nose and you can't fucking breathe? Wouldn't you bite their hand? That's your only defense, right? But I don't even know that that's what happened because I haven't heard this guy's side of the story yet. When he called me on the phone, he didn't say I bit somebody. I don't even know if that's the truth. You know, that's just what they're reporting. And I don't trust their reporting because the news is fake and controlled and owned and the police lie. So I don't even know if that he actually bit somebody. I just know that that's what they're saying. I haven't been able to talk to this guy other than to hear him say, they arrested me. I don't know what they arrested me for. They tried to kill me. They said I was yelling racial slurs and it's not true. That's all I know. And that conversation that I had with him was also on my live stream. So now, and then I went to court for him and me and Sean went to court for him that day and he has multiple charges and one of them is intent to maim. And they tried to do a psychiatric evaluation with him with a doctor over the phone. And she said that he kept talking over her, so she couldn't complete her evaluation. And so then he got committed to 20 days in a psych ward to be evaluated. So that doesn't make sense either. They thought that they were going to have an evaluation over the phone, which doesn't make sense. How can you evaluate somebody accurately over the phone? But we go from doing the evaluation over the phone to now he needs to be locked up in a psych ward for 20 days to complete this evaluation. You know, and his bail is $25,000. So he's probably not going to get out. And if he does, he's going to be on an ankle monitor and he's barred from the city of Boston. Okay, because their intent here is to sell it to the public that this guy's insane and to keep him away from Boston because he dared to go inside Boston City Hall and ask some fucking questions. Okay. Next thing, situation yesterday where Joe DePina went live twice that I know of so far to talk about this. So if you don't follow him, he's on Facebook. He goes live from his Facebook. His name's Joa, Joao DePina. He went live when he was in City Hall yesterday because he was at City Hall in the law department, which we had kind of like a random impromptu protest type demonstration in the City Hall law department a few months ago. And after we did that, they put a lock on the door. And now nobody can enter the City Hall law department. You have to ring the bell. So he went up to the law department because he filed a public records request, which is another conversation for another day, the public records request from the city of Boston and how it's been years that they have not complied with public records laws at all. And yet the same person continues to run the department and get raises for not doing what he's supposed to do. But I'm about to get to that in a minute. So Joa goes there yesterday to ask questions to the law department about the public records request that he put in October and still hasn't gotten any records back yet. And so he speaks to the person at the front desk. This is how I understand the story. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. He speaks to the person at the front desk. The person tells him, like, hold on a minute, I'll get you somebody to speak with or whatever. The guy, Sean Williams, that he was trying to speak to, like, was on vacation or not there or something. So, I'll get somebody for you. Be right back. And then she never comes back, but the police show up. And the amount of police that showed up for Joa yesterday was extensive and ridiculous. I don't know exactly how many, but like there was They were just coming down the hallway, a bunch of them, for this one man. And it was unnecessary. He's at City Hall asking questions. You know, there's a common theme here. Don't, you know, if you show up to City Hall and ask questions, you know, and they use people like us as examples because nobody's going to show up to City Hall to protest because they've watched quite a few of us get arrested for doing that. People are now probably going to be turned away from showing up to City Hall to ask questions now, because now we've seen 3 times in a very short period of time where people show up to ask questions and they're met by police telling them that they need to leave. You know? So it's, yeah, Michelle, you're right. It's just like when I tried to advocate for my cousin at her elementary school, they told me to hold on, put the school on lockdown, and called the police. The next thing I know, there's a helicopter and we're on the news and the school is on lockdown because I'm trying to speak to the school nurse. That, like, they're literally training the employees of the government to react to situations in panic mode. Like, if anybody tries to question you on these policies, they're a dangerous person and call the police. Like, we're not allowed to ask questions. Hello? What does that sound like to you? People should be outraged. People should be outraged by what happened to Joey yesterday. People should be outraged by the lies that are coming through the media about Mike Williams last week. People should be outraged that these 2 YouTubers went there and some City Hall employee had the nerve to ask him if he has permission to be sitting in the hallway of Boston City Hall. Like, we are allowing our city to turn into a dictatorship. Not even turning into, that's what it is. Our city council that we voted for and put into office in 2022 passed a city ordinance to ban people, us specifically, a very small group of people, a very targeted group of people, from protesting in front of the mayor's house. Nobody cares. The people of Boston are not even paying attention to these things. We are living under a dictatorship. This place is lawless. They do whatever they want. People are going to jail for absolutely nothing. People are getting criminal records and being blackballed from getting jobs for absolutely nothing. People have DCF, Department of Family and Children and Families, coming after them and their kids for nothing, for questioning the government. Where is the outrage? It doesn't make any sense. You can't go to Boston City Hall and ask a question because you're going to be committed to a psych ward after the police beat you up. What are we doing? What are we allowing? Why aren't we saying anything? Why, when Sean Nelson got tackled to the ground by at least 5 Boston police officers, June 22nd, 2022, why were there 100 Boston residents and Boston city workers in that park turning their backs, not caring that there was a black man being tackled to the ground by police officers? But I bet you all of those people were at the rallies and protests and everything else for George Floyd. But Sean's on the ground, Sean Nelson, a local black man from Boston, and nobody cares. What are we doing? Does anybody think for themselves anymore? Does anybody have common sense anymore? You cannot go into City Hall and ask questions. You need to be an approved person to be able to ask questions in a government building. What are we doing? Anyway, the last thing that I want to mention, because I really need to get off of here, is this news that I just got this morning. Let me get it up on my screen. So Sean Williams is the person who runs the The public records department, I want to say, I'm going to go to his profile in a minute. Hold on. I'm trying to pull this up really quickly first. Okay. Where am I? Sorry. Okay. So we have Sean Williams. Hold on. Sean Williams, Public Records Access Officer. Okay. Phone number 617-635-4037 right here on the corner. This is boston.gov. Attorney Sean Williams is the Records Access Officer for the City of Boston. Reporting to the Corporation Counsel, Sean is responsible for ensuring requests for public records are met with responses that comply with state law. He coordinates with the Office of the City Clerk with respect to the proper management of records by city departments. Sean meets regularly with city departments to discuss the obligations with respect to responses to public records requests. Okay, I'm not going to go read his whole profile on boston.gov, but that's who he is. That's his phone number. That's his picture. Okay. If you literally Google Boston Public Records, you will find news stories from this year, last year, the year before, multiple years of public records violations and how impossible, like you find news stories, news articles about how impossible it is to get public records from the city of Boston. Okay. It's impossible. Then we have, hold on, I got to share my other screen. So this morning, there's this woman, Michelle Effendi, who is one of the targeted people on Michelle Wu's hit list as well. She's also been unlawfully arrested and, 2 years ago, and is still in court for a ridiculous, bogus arrest. She often communicates back and forth with City Hall to get public records from them and, has uncovered many things, including conversations between City Hall employees that are saying, oh, are we doing records requests for her? Like, oh, it's her again, saying like very inappropriate, unbecoming things of government employees. Like, your job is to fill public records. It doesn't matter who's asking for them. Fill the requests. That's it, period, right? So we have this picture of Sean Williams, but hold on. So this morning, Michelle gets this email from Sean Williams. He says, "Good morning, Michelle." I wonder, can I zoom here? Listen, I'm like not tech savvy, okay? I can't. Okay. Good morning, Michelle. I wonder if we could speak off the record regarding your request to the city of Boston. If you are willing to do so, please let me know. Here's my direct number, Sean Williams. Michelle responds, "Why would I ever speak off the record? Why would you ever suggest that to me? Please stop playing games and send me the responses to the dozens of outstanding records requests you have of mine." Sean Williams says, "I would like to work on a plan to help resolve your open requests. The offer remains open should you ever change your mind." Michelle says, "You are threatening me. You're telling me I have to speak to you by phone off the record, or else you're not going to fulfill my records request. There is no reason for me to speak to you by telephone. There are laws for you to follow, and you're not following the laws. No additional plan is needed. Fulfill the record's outstanding record requests." He says, "Michelle, I intend to honor your request to the best of my ability, regardless of whether we speak. I apologize for my lack of clarity." Michelle says, "Then hurry up and immediately fulfill all the records requests. It's been more than enough time. Suggesting I speak to you off the record is totally inappropriate, especially considering the repeated allegations of misconduct I've made against you. You're a lawyer. Stop playing stupid and finish the job." And she's absolutely correct and justified and accurate in the things that she's saying to him off the record. Like, first of all, she makes a good point. You're a lawyer. Why are you saying something like this in email? You know, like this is not a fucking game. Just do your job. Like you want to speak off the record about the records request that you're not fulfilling. Like, what is off the record? Like, why would a lawyer that works for the government say that in an email to somebody? Yeah, it's like there's many different like levels of trying to understand what the hell is going on here. You know, it's almost like, is this a setup? Like, you know, did you purposely send that email so that we would put the email on blast? Like, what is happening? I don't know, but I just know that it's corrupt and we need to be paying attention to it. We need to be shining light on everything that's happening in the darkness. And when a government lawyer who is in charge of public records is saying, let's talk off the record after you've put in complaints of misconduct and allegations of you not doing your job, this is why it's dangerous when local government gets too big. This is why I have a problem with 23,000 employees working for the city of Boston, because we don't know what's going on. Okay. I know that there is a police officer named like Kendra or something or other that made like almost $500,000 last year or something. But like earlier last year, she was involved in some kind of a lawsuit because she was stealing overtime. But now she's like one of the third highest paid employees of the city of Boston for 2023. She should have been fired. Like, the math doesn't math here. It doesn't the things that go on in this city don't add up. They don't make sense. Okay. I mean, we watched what happened with Shane and Catone and the way that they literally put in like a group effort between City Hall and the Boston Police Department and Internal Affairs to fire Shane and Catone. And, you know, we watch what they do with us, the people who protest Woo, the way that they target us, the way that they use Massachusetts laws to arrest us for things that aren't even applicable, you know, against First Amendment protected activity. We watch them abuse the law, the Constitution, our, you know, God-given rights. We watch them do these things day in and day out, and nobody's paying attention. Everybody brushes it off. And then we have thousands of people in the streets yelling, "Free Karen Read." Maybe if we paid attention to the everyday corruption that was going on, then we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in with a murder cover-up. I mean, call out corruption when you see it. Stop playing their games. Stop ignoring their games. Start putting people, you know, on blast. Start shaming people. If you don't like the mayor and you know that the mayor is taking drastic moves to destroy our city and everything in it and everybody from it, why are you shaking her hand and smiling in her face and taking pictures with her at your community event? She's the enemy. You know, if you're saying behind closed doors that she's the enemy, then why are you in a picture smiling with her? And the same goes for any other elected official. You know, over the past, you know, since 2022, I've been involved in Boston politics, and I see this over and over and over and over again. I have all these conversations with all of these concerned residents of Boston. There's thousands of you that I've talked to, people that live in Boston. Like, pay attention, please, if you're watching. You're not alone, okay? But you guys need to like gain a little bit of courage and start talking about these things out loud publicly, because then people will realize how many of us there actually are. Okay, it can't continue to be a small handful of people that are getting retaliated against and arrested and treated like criminals and crazy people for saying what is on the minds and in the hearts of the rest of the people. We need help. We need more people to step up and start calling these things out. Like, I am not over exaggerating when I tell you I have talked to thousands of people that live in the city of Boston that are not happy with this administration, that are not happy with the corruption in the police department. But the majority, the vast majority of those people, as you can see, will not say anything because they fear retaliation, because they don't want to ruin their reputation amongst their city friends, because they have some type of a business deal or contract with the city, because they work for the city, because they work for a union. The list of reasons why people won't speak up is endless. It's only going to get worse. It's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse until people start speaking up, with the very few of us that have, and doing something about it. Because in Boston, we don't have the option of voting these people out. We don't. Because the Massachusetts GOP they run right in line with the Democrats. So there's no finding balance between Democrats and Republicans in Boston, because the GOP stays as far away from Boston as they can. They are controlled opposition as far as I'm concerned. There is not even a GOP in Massachusetts as far as I'm concerned. They're all working for the Democrats as far as I'm concerned. They don't touch Boston. They don't come to Boston. They don't talk to people within Boston. Okay? And so there's no finding balance between the two parties. And there is nobody sticking their neck out to say, like, you know, let me pave a way or find some financial solutions for people, regular people who are not, enrolled in a party to run for office. Okay. We don't have the option of voting these people out. I'm going to say it again. The residents, the voters of the city of Boston do not have the option of voting these people out, because there's nobody running against them. And when there are people running against them, like myself, Sean, maybe Clifton, Jawan Skeens, Althea Garrison, when there are common sense minded people and good hearted people and people who cannot be bought running against these people, we don't have the bank accounts that they do. We can't spend the money that they spend on our campaigns. People look at our funding and they say nobody's financially supporting these people, so like they're not viable. So, I had people ask me last year to drop out of the race so that Bridget Nee Walsh would have a better chance getting in. Well, surprise to you, not to me, Bridget was getting in the whole time, and we all knew it. Okay. Erin's leaving. Bridget will take her place. All of the conservatives or Republican voting people of Boston went with Erin Murphy and Bridget Nee Walsh, and look what happened. Erin's leaving you. You put all of your time and your money and everything into having that one conservative-minded Democrat on the city council to speak for you, to be your seat at the table, and now she's saying, bye. I'm done here. Like Frank Baker, I don't want to be the only one with this opinion. I don't want to be the only one, always being against the conversation. So I'm just going to leave now. Okay. And then when Bridget gets in there, I'm sure it'll be the same Frank Baker situation. She claims to be conservative. Maybe she will stick up for the right things. But hey, at the end of the day, just like Erin Murphy was, Bridget is beholden to the unions. And the unions are controlled by the government. So, again, these are conversations for other days, but the point is that we don't have the option of voting people out, because for some reason people vote for the people with the biggest bank accounts, which makes no sense to me. And people vote for the people that they are used to. and the people who tell them lie after lie after lie after lie. And they do not support people who tell the truth. They do not support people who don't have the ability to raise the funds needed to run a successful campaign. So we don't have that option. So if anybody, if people plan on living in Boston, plan on staying in Boston, plan on, a future for freedom, things like that, maybe start speaking up. Maybe start calling things out when you see them. Maybe start taking videos of things that you see that are wrong with our local government and the way that things are operated around here and post them on your social media. Maybe do any of the things, that you could do, anything that you could possibly think of to shine light on what's happening behind closed doors. Maybe show up to support somebody who is shining light on the things that are happening. Maybe reach out to somebody like me who is shining light and say, I'm not sure what to do. Can you help me figure it out? Because I will, because we need help before we all end up in jail or in a psych ward. We need some help. So yeah, I'm going to leave now. I've overstayed my allotted time that I gave myself for this live. And I just wanted to talk about and shine light on those 3 incidents that happened at City Hall and those disgusting emails that Michelle Effendi got from Sean Williams about the public records. And again, also highlighting the fact that we have a huge public records issue in City Hall. We don't get any. They just don't fulfill public records requests. For the most part. And even when they do, it's usually thousands and thousands of pages of absolutely nothing. So just taxpayer money just being wasted away on employees that aren't doing their jobs and employees that will call the police on anybody who comes into City Hall and tries to ask questions. So residents of Boston, voters of Boston, the 100 people that are watching this video right now, if you live in Boston and you're not speaking up, which I don't see anybody speaking up outside of the small handful of people that I communicate with and that I share their videos or their lives or whatever. Start speaking up because we need you. And I mean, stop. I don't know. I don't know what the message is. Okay. I don't know what the solution is, what the answers are. I just know that, they want to, and they will continue to use people like me, people like Joa, people like Sean, as examples, people like Mike Williams. They will continue to use us as examples to scare the rest of you into submission. So it's cute that you have your American flag gear in your shirts that say, I will not comply, but the majority of you are still complying with everything. It doesn't have to be about a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate. You're complying because you are silently agreeing to everything else that they're doing. So say something, do something, reach out. Go to boston2boston.com, sign up for newsletters, sign up for emails, sign up to become a citizen reporter, and help us get the word around Boston to educate the residents of Boston on what's happening, and to get people active and engaged in a real grassroots movement or whatever you want to call it, outside of the government and all of their NGOs and nonprofits and organizations that they use to control people. Do something, because we're all screwed. And you can complain on the internet, and you can wear your patriotic shirts and hats and claim to be a badass or somebody who fights for freedom, but you're not. There's like a handful of us. And we could really use your help. So I'm going to go now. I might be back later. I might not. I don't know. But thank you for watching. Share the video, comment on the video, like the video, argue with me, do whatever you want. It helps my visibility. I appreciate it. And spread the word and find the courage to speak up. Thank you.